All right. Third time is a charm. I am so sorry about that, you guys. I did check my internet speeds. My internet speeds are fine. So I'm suspecting this is something on YouTube's end. Whenever they do updates, yeah. But anyways, we're back. Third time's a charm. Um, let's just jump on in, shall we? Welcome again, you guys. Again, my apologies for that. I was answering your question, I believe, when we got so rudely interrupted. I am so sorry about that. When I wanted a person out of my life, I affirmed I will never see her again. Then I saw her. Why did it manifest? I said never. So, um, you were still had your attention on her. I think you might be referring to like the not technique, or as people call it, that the subconscious mind doesn't understand not or never. It does. The subconscious mind understands a lot. Um, it's very powerful, very powerful. So it's the same concept as the ladder technique. That even when we say, I will not climb a ladder, we're still focusing on the ladder, right? So if you want somebody out of your life, the best way is to take your attention completely away from that person. Direct your attention to something else, anything else. Yeah. Yeah. But just to be clear, the subconscious mind can understand never. It's not where our attention goes, where our focus is, what we might imagine or assume is what comes to pass. Yes, I did add the links to the coaching, the one-on-one wait list, email coaching, all of that is now in the description box. It wasn't earlier. I am so sorry. So, yes, you can find that below. You say that things are happening behind the scenes when we see a change inside. And what if we think we are on in the Sabbath and then there is a backlash? Is it happening at this good time? So I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. Um, so if we think we are in the Sabbath and then we experience backlash, that is number one, that is something that often happens. There's been a lot of accounts of that. I've certainly experienced that. We may think we're in the Sabbath and then turns out not so much. That's okay. Again, this is all about redirecting your focus. This is all about as soon as you are able to, as soon as the backlash subsides, you're feeling better. We just direct our attention back to the end. Um, when we say that things are happening behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure you're referring to the bridge of incidents, right? Um, we do not really need to concern ourselves with how or what that looks like. Rest assured. We're not going to know what's going on behind the scenes. All we do know is that if you continue to fix your attention on the wish fulfilled, if you continue to go back into imagination and feel into that state, it has to unfold in a way that we're not going to consciously know. Yeah. But do not fret if you experience backlash. It will always subside. Let me see. How to deal with impatience. Good question. I recently made a video about this too. A couple of videos back, fairly recent. Uh, I believe the title's What to Do If You're Waiting for Your Manifestation. I would definitely check out that video if you have not seen it. But basically, impatience is feedback. It's indication to us that in this moment, we are not in the state that we want to be in, right? We're not in the end. So take the impatience as feedback that It has been too long since we have gone to that end in imagination. So we want to return there. And that's really because, again, state of impatience implies not having, not being. So we just want to redirect, get ourselves back to the end. But definitely check out the video. Definitely check out the video. Question on revision: how to resolve a long, unideal past with many big or small, unideal experiences. Should we revise one by one, or is there another way? Thank you. How to resolve a long, unideal. So you can revise, you know, each incident or event one by one. Like that is an approach you can take. Um, you could also, if that feels too daunting or overwhelming, you could construct a new memory. You can imagine something completely new that you may not have experienced in the 3D, but something that implies that these other unwanted events didn't happen, right? So let's say, for example, like if the issue is, how do I put this? Say you have a lot of self concept things around relationships and not feeling good enough, not feeling, worthy enough. And, that resulted in a lot of patterns, unideal patterns in a relationship, a lot of fighting, a lot of this, a lot of that. One thing that you can always do in order to change that self concept, change the belief, is construct new memories that imply that you have always felt good enough. You have always felt prioritized. Like you have been the priority. You've felt chosen, right? So things that are going to excuse me, things that are going to help you instill that new concept of you. So that may be a bit of an easier way to approach it instead of, because we want to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, there's thousands of things I have to revise. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But yeah, play around with the idea of creating new memories. Oh, good, Vivian. Things are getting better over here. Yay! Oh, I'm glad to hear it. How do you manifest someone who is currently a trigger for you? Working on a reconciliation. Good question. So if something or someone is triggering, if it is, you know, evoking a lot of feelings that we don't want, for lack of better words, anytime we have something like that, I strongly recommend revision. I strongly recommend revision. Um, we want to remove anything that may have set that trigger there or might potentially have set it off. So if somebody, for example, if somebody had hurt you, if somebody had, you know, lied to you, like, we would want to revise how we see that person. We would want to imagine that person differently. That's really, for if you notice too much resistance when you try to imagine a future scene, when you go to try to imagine the wish fulfilled, but you're noticing a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance to the idea, likely that something there that we need to revise. Based on your experience and your clients, how long is the Sabbath usually? From a few days/weeks to even few months? That is a good question. It's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be like wildly different. I've experienced Sabbath for minutes before it showed up. I've also been in the Sabbath for weeks before it showed up. So it wildly depends. But one thing for sure, when you are in the Sabbath, you're not even going to be focused on the time. Like, truly, it's not even gonna be a thing anymore. Let me see. I've had many breakthroughs this past week, and one of them has been detachment. Truly letting go of someone or something is to let go of their importance or your attachment to them, anger included. Oh, excellent to hear that. Yay! Oh, congrats on the breakthroughs. Yeah, detachment is a huge aspect to all of this. Not detachment from the desire. I always have to emphasize that point. It's not giving up on the desire and moving on, but detachment to any of the things that are holding you to that old state. So that includes anger, resentment, guilt, anything like that. Good, Fernando. I'm so happy to hear that. Any tips on visualizing from a first person perspective? I struggle to visualize my SP. It's like see him, but he's far away. Good question. So I know that visualizing in first person is something that for a lot of people does not come very naturally. Um, my personal experience and for those that I've talked to, we're much better able to imagine in third person. That seems to just kind of be the default setting that we have. Um, if you want as far as practice goes, you can practice. There's plenty of visualization exercises that we can do as far as just like strengthening that muscle. I have a video on visualization, and in that video, I go over some exercises and some tips and things of that sort. So if you haven't seen that video, I do recommend watching it. Um, but also, even if you can just practice with like capture the capture an object, right? Or you can look outside the window and then close your eyes and try to replicate what you see through your eyes. It can absolutely be a practice, and also make sure that you are as relaxed as possible, that you're not trying to strain or struggle against it. But one exercise that I did often was I would take an object, uh, a cup of coffee, something that we can really gauge with our physical senses, and then try to replicate that same thing through your eyes. And do check out that video that I made. I got some more tips in there for you. Let me see. Oh, you're welcome, Mai. Oh, Marie. Missy, how do you suggest revising years of childhood sexual abuse? How would I imagine it as if it never happened? Good question. And I know that these for these areas, for these things that are so horrific and you know things that traumatize us deeply. I know revising these can be very daunting. Like the thought of revising these kinds of instances can be really daunting. One thing that you can play around with is oh, oh, one sec, guys. Yep, YouTube is doing something. Are you guys noticing any buffering? Hmm. I'm getting comments saying it's buffering and comments saying that it's not. Okay. Sorry, guys. Are we good now? Okay. Okay. Where was I? So sorry about that. Yeah. So when it comes to things that have instilled traumatic events, one thing that you can approach it with is like not the events itself, but imagine perhaps a conversation or something that implies like see yourself as an adult or saying how thankful you are that you've always been treated with respect, that you have thankfully never had to have any encounters that were like that. Really, it's just about what is being implied. So the other approach that I would try, like if there, and this goes for anything that we struggle to revise, because I know revision is one of those things that definitely takes some getting used to, but start with just the last 24 hours. Start with revising the day. If you feel overwhelmed or you feel like there's these huge things that are going to be too big, too intense, that you have a lot of anxiety even approaching, um, start with just revising the last 24 hours and get into that habit. Because the more that you even just get yourself started with revising, smaller events, last 24 hours, you're going to naturally become better and better at approaching anything, no matter how big or small. So I would honestly recommend that approach first. But if you wanted to try to approach, you know, those traumatic events, imagine having a conversation that implies that you have always been respected, you have always had people treat you with nothing but respect and kindness, that you have never had any kind of, invalidation or anything like that. I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm making sense. But yeah, when in doubt, start small, start with the last 24 hours. There's definitely something going on with YouTube today. I am so sorry, guys. If you're having issues with the audio, try refreshing. Yeah, definitely try refreshing the stream if you're having any issues. Damn it, YouTube. Hi, Missy. Can others manifest for you? If we believe they can, if you give them permission. I mean, to be clear, like objectively, you are the one creating in your reality, always. Period. End of story. That said, if it helps to give you a boost, if it helps to give you some encouragement, knowing that somebody else is manifesting for you, somebody else is imagining for you, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it could be helpful in cases, knowing that, somebody's manifesting something good for us. But if you're referring to other people having the ability to manifest like over you, like voiding you out, overriding you, no, not a thing. Yeah, if you are noticing issues with the chat, try refreshing. That usually does the trick. Mhm. I have a little difficulty trusting the law. I've had things happen exactly as I imagined and had people say what I affirmed. Still, a part of me has some doubts if it's just coincidence. Any tips? Absolutely. Good question. Um, and this is why we want to continue to observe. Observe your inner talking, observe your reactions, observe your assumptions, and also what's going on in the 3D around you. You're gonna pick up more and more and more and more and more. You're gonna start to see constantly that we imagine something and then it comes to pass. We react to something and then it comes to pass. That happens all the time. We're just not usually conscious of it. We're typically on autopilot. So the more that you become increasingly aware of that relationship between the inner world and the outer world, you're going to see it more and more. And you might be able to chalk it up to coincidence a few times, but after a few hundred times, you can't chalk that up. Mm. Hi, Missy. If we stop imagining and affirming, would our manifestations still come? I'm manifesting SP now. I wanted to shift my focus from him to me more and thus imagine scenes with him less. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you are feeling moved to turn your focus somewhere else, then you should. I would. Mhm. Because inevitably, you're going to reach a place where you're not even going to feel any need or push to imagine that person anymore. You're going to reach a place where you're not there's going to be no need. It's going to feel redundant. That's normal. And if that's how it feels, I would definitely turn my attention to, any other aspect or any area in life that you want to imagine that you want to manifest. Yeah, this is normal. Rest assured this is normal. If I fall asleep thinking I will win the lottery, will I win the lottery? That's clever. That's clever. I like that. I mean, more importantly than the words is how you feel. This is all about the feeling. Um, so I myself personally, if you know, if it were me desiring a lottery win, I would imagine already having that lottery win. Welcome back, Sky Baby. It's been a minute. It has. Hello, Missy. What advice would you give when it's hard to impress the subconscious, even with using sats and sats like states? Good question. So, if you're noticing difficulty with feeling into that state of the wish fulfilled, um, it's likely that you might be trying to push too hard. You may be using too much effort, too much willpower, basically. If we are imagining with force, if we are trying to like force an impression, not the most effective approach. So the key here is to relax. The key is to make sure that you are relaxed. Like if we're feeling tense, if we're feeling anxious, then first thing that we need to do is alleviate that anxiety. Like, anything that helps to calm ourselves, relax the body, relax the mind. Yeah. It's usually when we're trying to like burst a blood vessel that it becomes, yeah. Relaxation is the name of the game. You've mentioned that feeling. I like this question, Northwest Wind. You've mentioned that feeling is the knowingness that something is done and not a literal feeling. But law of reversibility suggests feeling bliss manifests bliss. Is there a contradiction? I don't see a contradiction. Um, because yeah, if we're generally feeling in a state of bliss, then that's what's gonna outpicture. That's what we're gonna continue to feel. Um, by feeling is the knowingness. That's just for if you have a scene, if you are imagining something, like visualizing something, or an inner conversation. The the aim is not to try to force an emotion, and that's where a lot of people can find themselves stuck, is because they're trying to force an like emotional responses are subconscious. They're reflexive, right? We don't have to try, right? They're a response. So the aim is to make it feel as real as possible. And a lot of times the emotion will naturally occur. Like we'll be in our scene enjoying ourselves and then we'll start to notice emotion come up. That's normal. It's not that it needs to be void of emotion. It's just that we don't need to force it. I hope that makes sense. Where's my spot? Can you talk about manifesting new love? I don't have an SP in mind. I want someone new with the looks and qualities I want. How to manifest this? Good question. So, when it comes to somebody new, the first thing that we want to do is get very clear on what that looks like. Maybe not have an exact image, of course, but like the qualities that you want in a person, how you desire to be treated, like what are the things that are ideal for you. I mean, anything from yeah, hobbies, personal traits, looks, anything like that. But get very clear on what what your expectations are and what you desire to experience. And then if you are a visual person, you can imagine a scene that you and a friend are talking and you're telling them all about this amazing person that you met and how you two are doing wonderfully together, that you are really into each other, something along those lines. I love having inner conversations because it feels like something that would naturally occur in the 3D. But again, that's just me. You can also use affirmations. Like, I am so grateful for my partner who treats me so well. Anything of that kind. We don't have to have a specific face in mind or a specific person in mind. No. Just get clear on what you desire to experience in a relationship and you are good. Hi, Missy. Should I revise SP choosing 3P over me or just keep assuming that she apologized and came back? I also struggle with getting third party out of my mind. Like they just pop into my yeah. I I know third parties, yeah. And I have made a video talking about this, what to do in a third party situation. If you haven't seen it yet. But number one, yes, revise. Like when in doubt, revise. Absolutely. And you want to revise until that revised memory feels like what actually happened, until it sort of, it overtakes the old story. So that should be the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the event. Um, yeah. Yeah. That is definitely my 2 cents. I mean, if you can imagine them coming back and every if you can go into the future without resistance, then by all means you do that. But if you're noticing difficulty, I would revise. Hey, Missy, so happy to have made it to the live. Welcome. My question is it a good idea to keep seeing SP when he is not conforming and he doesn't want to commit yet? I mean, it depends on your ability to shut out the 3D. I mean, if like if you are good with revision, if you are just, quick to revise it, not let yourself be affected by it, then totally fine. If you are noticing that there's a lot of reactions, if there's a lot of emotion, if you're noticing a lot of hot and cold behavior back and forth, a lot of double-mindedness due to the 3D, it's something that you can consider. I'm not saying you have to stop talking to your person, but if they are having an effect on you that doesn't allow you to go to the end, if they're interfering with what you are imagining, it's always something to consider. I say all the time, I had to do that. I was I was so triggered by the 3D, and it's very difficult. It was, sorry guys, for me. But if you perhaps are able to revise it and able to kind of continue to go back to that end, it doesn't really affect you, then yeah. Either way though, I would practice revision. You can kind of see a theme going here, huh? Let me see. I'm glad you guys like the revision video. Isn't it? Yeah, I will die on this hill. Revision will change your life. Where was I? I'm sorry, the chat keeps bouncing around. I'm sorry, guys. How to deal with the 3D circumstances when they are opposite of what you want? That is the $1,000,000 question. I mean, how to deal with the 3D circumstances? Know that they are just past reflection. They are the reflection of things imagined yesterday, the day before, a week ago, a month ago. Nothing more, nothing less. And so long as I continue to go back to the end, so long as I continue to imagine and put myself in the state of already having and already being, that is what must come to pass, no matter what. So it's really instilling that and knowing that. Certainly does not hurt to use faith building exercises and continue to build your trust in the law. Because if we are not solid in our faith, if we are wavering on that faith, it's going to be much easier for us to be moved by the 3D. We're going to be very reactive to the 3D. It's just going to be all around a bad time. But the entire point of this practice is to shut out the 3D senses, what's going on around you, and turn within. As far as application goes, applying the law, that is everything. Practicing closing our eyes, shutting out everything, and going within. Because that should be a thing that we do. Once we close our eyes, the 3D no longer exists. That's what we are building ourselves up to. And I know I know how much it sucks when the 3D is not the way that we want it to. But if you continue to go to that end, continue to build your faith, it must change. That is law. Amy, oh my goodness. Hi, Missy. I love the success story video. I did revise something that seemed impossible with just getting frustrated and affirming that I have never had any legal issues and saw results within minutes. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, I will never shut up about revision. Never. Never. Oh, you are so welcome. How to stop putting your SP on a pedestal. Yeah. And I think this is something that is pretty common. If you're on an SP journey or have been on an SP journey, at one point or another, we had them on the pedestal. We all have. Yeah. But what we want to remember is that this is not about us trying to change them. This is not about us trying to get them. I know that's what we desire, but the objective here is to practice putting ourselves on that pedestal. Quite literally. Like you want to continue to focus, turn your attention back to how you desire to feel. What do you desire to experience? Like SP aside, do you want to feel loved? Do you want to feel prioritized? Do you want to feel like you can trust? Do you want to feel secure and knowing that you can trust? Do you want to feel abundant? That is where we're putting our focus. Now, of course, SP is going to come up in your mind. They're going to frequent your mind throughout the day to day, and that's fine. But the idea here is that we are the operant power. And the last thing that we want to do ever is give that power to someone else. Don't do that. John, John. My SP was dumped by her boyfriend of 6 years just last week. I'm afraid I was grinning like the Joker. Oh, God. Good to see you, my friend. Oh. Kiara's got a great question. Hey, Missy, is the best way to revise multiple memories slash assumptions from the past to use "Isn't it wonderful" instead of revising each individually? You can absolutely take that approach. Hmm. Yeah. Um, "Isn't it wonderful" is fantastic for multiple desires, multiple areas of life. Like it's just focused on the general feeling, the overall feeling. And so you're gonna notice changes in each aspect of your life using "Isn't it wonderful?" Yeah, that one is my go-to more often than anything else. Absolutely. How do you deal with fearful thoughts? I'm doing pretty well, but fear does feel very real. And what's the best way to redirect? Good question. And definitely check out the video that I made talking about negative thoughts and how to deal with negative thoughts. Um, the first thing that we have to understand is that our thoughts are not what hold power. The thoughts are not the power here. Like, our thoughts do not have power over us. And that is a really common misconception because a lot of the things that we learn, mainly from the law of attraction, if you came from that school of thought, is that your thoughts create. Your thoughts create. It's your thoughts that create. The thoughts don't have power. There is only one creative power in the entire universe, and that is I am. That is consciousness, your awareness, nothing else. So even if it is a negative thought and we react to it, okay, we just observe it and we take the feedback. What is the feedback telling us? Do I still identify with this old fear? Do I still identify with this old belief? Do I still have attachment to this circumstance or whatever it might be? Okay. So now I know that that's probably something I want to revise, or now I know that's something I probably want to imagine differently. Yeah. Because no matter what we do have revision. Revision is your uprooter, it is your eraser. But ultimately, don't give power to your thoughts. Don't give your power away. And check out the video. I think you will find it very helpful. I've heard that thoughts come from a state. Yep. Thoughts are the natural byproducts of a state of consciousness. Missy, sometimes I see myself with my desire in my dreams. Does it mean my subconscious mind accepting it and it's coming into my reality? Oh, excellent question. I mean, absolutely. I would absolutely give it that meaning. Dreams are feedback, they are indication. They can give us insight into things going on under the conscious surface. So if you are noticing dreams lining up with your desired experience, that's a good thing. Aw. Lately, I've been feeling very depressed by my circumstances. My job is becoming a source of stress and frustration, and I wish I had all the money to quit. I don't want to work anymore, ever. I know that feeling. But use that. Use that frustration, channel it, and imagine what it would be like if you did not have to work anymore. Like, how would your life be different than it is now? And then go there. Go there in imagination. Like, what would you be doing in your day to day? Traveling? Buying a nice property? I know that we are very limited by our beliefs. And a lot of times we have beliefs around we have to work hard for money. Money can only come through, like, income can only come from a job. All of these things that we've sort of been conditioned with are not true. They're just not. They're all assumptions, they're all beliefs. So all you need to do is allow yourself, give yourself permission to explore that reality, explore that parallel world where you have all the money you could ever want or need. And really allow yourself to go there. Like, play with it. Get familiar with that state. We don't need to worry about how it's going to show up, like what avenues need to happen, or don't worry about any of that. Go there and have fun with it. Where was I spot? How to overcome fear of recreating the old story with the SP. knowing that you can ultimately change it. You can ultimately change it. That's gonna remove what's gonna remove fear is faith. Faith is gonna trump fear every time. If we know that we are the operant power, if we know and believe that what we imagine is what is out pictured and experienced, then even if I unconsciously, unintentionally imagine something that comes to pass that is not good, I can always change it. You can always change it. You're never at the mercy of things outside of you. You're never at the mercy of anything outside of you. There's truly nothing to fear when we know that. Oh, spot. Sorry, guys, trying to find where it was. Yeah, when it comes to techniques, anything that resonates with you is gonna work. Anything that helps you to feel good, anything that helps you to really immerse yourself in it, whether that's affirmations, scripting, visualizing, doesn't matter. There is no, like, best technique objectively. No. So if scripting is something that resonates, if it helps you to better get into that feeling state, I would do it. How do we normalize feeling rich like a millionaire just won the lottery? A part of me feels like giving up after almost 2 years. I know that feeling. I can't stay here much longer in 3D living circumstances. Sorry, just making sure. All right, I think we're back. Just letting it do its thing for a second. So, how do we normalize the feeling of a millionaire, being a millionaire? Really, in first, find whatever method or way of imagining that helps you to really kind of tap into it. Again, whether that's scripting, whether that's visualizing, doesn't matter. But you just want to play with the concept of it, right? Being a millionaire, what does that imply? Like, how would your life look different? You probably have accountants and lawyers and all that boring stuff. You would maybe have multiple properties. Where would you want to own these properties? You would maybe want to open up a nonprofit, right? Something that you're passionate about, or you would, want to donate to something that you were passionate about. Maybe you would get really expensive art, whatever that looks like. But this is all like how you would be as a millionaire. We're not trying to figure out how somebody else is going to act or what it means to somebody else. It's what it means to you. Maybe you have a private jet. You get to go nuts. And that's the thing, you guys. We can go anywhere in imagination. We can have it all in imagination. We can explore any state of consciousness, any reality. There is no off limits. Just because we haven't experienced it in the physical world does not mean that we cannot imagine it. No. So really, and then like literally speaking, ask yourself that question: what would my life be like as a millionaire? and then just allow yourself to explore the concept. A lot of times, if we think something is impossible, we don't even allow ourselves to imagine it. We don't allow ourselves to go there. And that's a habit we must break. Yeah. Oh, I love these conversations going on. Hi, Kelly. Had a few dates with a new guy who's great and shows up how I want SP to. Still want SP, but now ego says give new guy a shot, and it worries me. Now I struggle to visualize and live in the end. Is this normal? It's normal. It's normal. I'm not sure if you've heard of the concept of birds before land, but it is something that it's very common. I would say it's very common. We're likely going to notice other people showing up in the way that we want our person to show up. And I know it's annoying, but that is indication that your conception around relationships in general is changing. Where I would focus is how you are perceiving your person. And if there is anything still there as resistance, like, is there any beliefs that you hold in conflict when it comes to your person? Like, is there a belief that, he's not going to be ready for a long time, or he's not going to want to get back together because he told me? That is, from the looks of and what you're describing, that's really the only thing. Like, we don't have this issue with other people because we are not perceiving other people the way that we are perceiving our person. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, it is very common to have this. Notice some resistance to trying to visualize. That's normal. Don't try to fight it. Don't fight it. Yeah. And then as soon as you are able to, focus also on getting deeply relaxed first. If we're having a difficult time, there's um, a lot of pushback, a lot of struggle with going to the end with our person. Key is relax first. Yeah. But I know we're going to be talking here very soon, so we'll catch up. You are so welcome, Kelly. Oh, hi, Missy. I feel completely defeated since none of my manifestations have happened and things seem to get worse. I'm too physically and mentally exhausted. What do I do? I am so sorry. Um, and this may not be what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. Take a break. Take a break from trying to manifest, because if we are physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted, we have been putting in way too much effort. And we've been, straining ourselves with trying to manifest. So our mental health and well-being has to be prioritized always. Like, we cannot continue to just push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves. That's not how we get to the end. It's not. Um, I know the feeling that you're talking about. I've certainly had many instances personally of that feeling of defeat. Uh, but we have to also note that if we are looking for our manifestations, if we are constantly observing that it's not here yet, it hasn't shown up yet, then what am I going to manifest from that state? If what is coming into my awareness, the absence, then the lack, what am I going to manifest from that state? So I know it can feel very difficult and frustrating, but the more that we continue to say, "It's not here, I don't have it, nothing's worked," we're gonna perpetuate that. Because again, we're creating 24/7. We're never not manifesting, and that's something that I think we often forget. So, number 1, give yourself some rest, give yourself a break. I'm not saying to give up. I'm not saying to give up and walk away from your desires, but we can absolutely give ourselves some space to just breathe and relax and recharge our batteries. In fact, we have to. We have to. We're not going to be able to manifest something lovely from a burned out, exhausted, and frustrated state. Yeah. You will overcome this. You will. Missy, how did you get into the law of assumption? Oh god. So, I found Neville after I had a really intense mystical experience. Well, at the time, I just thought it was a wild dream, but it led me to Neville's book, The Law and the Promise. The first time I found Neville Goddard back in 2012, I was not ready yet to really receive the message. I was kind of the insistent quoting of the Bible, and it just didn't resonate at that time. But then fast forward a couple of years, 2015, it was the end of 2015 when I found Neville again. Yeah, yeah. Should make another video about that. What to do what do you do after you script a revised situation or event? For example, what do you think or tell yourself if your logical mind doubts? Good question. So if there is still doubts, we wanna go back and revise it again. Basically, the aim with revision is to revise until it feels normal, until it feels like that's what happened. We're still notice oh, just feedback that we want to go back to that revised scene 70 times 7. All right. Got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions? Definitely. Relaxing is tough sometimes. Isn't that wild? I was having this conversation with a client the other day about relaxation and how difficult it can feel for us to relax. Relaxing is just the opposite of effort. It's just not trying. It's surrendering. There's literally nothing that we have to do, and yet we still find it challenging. It's kind of a wild concept, but relaxation is I will say it is mandatory when it comes to applying the law, applying these teachings. If we are tense and strained and uptight and we're trying to use force, not the most effective way to approach it. Bye, Yara. Lovely to see you as always. And until next time, beautiful. I love that you guys are making friends here. I can't visualize, but I can feel SP's arms around me when I affirm in a drowsy state. Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. We don't have to have a crystal clear image. We don't even need to visualize per se. As long as you know what is happening and like what you're imagining is implying, you are good. How do I get rid of the thoughts that SP is thinking about his past and trust that he loves me and wants me only and does not think about anyone but me? Good question. Um, so how we get rid of those thoughts? We change the state. We move into a new state of consciousness. Basically, the whole purpose of changing the self-concept is to change our reactions, change our thoughts, change everything around that old story. So, how do we get rid of the thoughts? We continue to imagine and go to the end because the thoughts are going to naturally disappear. If you are occupying a new state where you and your person are together and he's loving and you know and feel secure in that relationship, you know that he loves you, you don't question it. If that is your default, you're not going to have those thoughts. You're not going to have those fearful thoughts because they wouldn't come from that state. So, you know, one of the cool things that happens with going to the end is we stop having those intrusive, fearful thoughts. Yeah. I don't recommend micromanaging them or flipping them throughout the day. I know that that's something that's often taught. And if it does work for you, then cool. Like for some people, maybe that is the best approach. But for the vast majority, it's going to feel exhausting to try to micromanage our mind and every single thought that comes through our head. I don't recommend it. Observe them, know that your thoughts don't have power, and then as soon as you are able to, go back to that end. Because as you recondition this state, you are no longer going to have the fearful thoughts from it. Ever, ever again. And on that note, you guys, am I going to do a live tomorrow? I may come on tomorrow for a little bit just because I know today was so interrupted. Um, yeah, keep eyes out for that announcement. If I do come on tomorrow, I'll definitely post a heads up and let you guys know. But on that note, unfortunately, I do need to get going. My apologies for the technical difficulties today, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your amazing questions as always. Take care of yourselves, you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Be mindful of where you dwell. Till next time. Bye, guys.